Hi, welcome to Deb Talks. I'm Deborah Gray-Young, your host for today, and our topic today is what's your what and why for 2017. And so thank you for tuning in. It's so good for you to join me. And what we're going to do today is share some steps and some tips to make your goal setting for the new year work harder for you. So I want to start with just giving you a little bit of background about myself. Again, my name is Deborah Gray-Young. I am the managing partner for D. Gray-Young Inc., which is my company, and we are a multicultural marketing and professional development consulting firm. And I'm sure you're wondering do those two things even go together? Well, again, a little bit about my background. I am an award-winning marketing communications professional, and I have literally just put a bow on a 35 plus year career in the advertising industry. But I'm also a certified professional coach, and I work as an executive coach with professional women of color. So that's how those two things come together. And today's lesson, today's Deb Talk is helping you to create effective goal setting for the new year. So with that, we're going to get started. I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint. So it may be a little bit of time before you see me again. Before I switch to the PowerPoint, I'll just give you a little bit of background on a backstory on how this topic and this webinar came together. I guess it's been 5 weeks now. 5 weeks ago, I was looking on my calendar for something. I don't even remember what it was now. And as I was looking at dates, it occurred to me that October 1st was literally 2 weeks away. It was like 2 weeks and a couple of days, and I was stunned. I couldn't believe that, and I knew it was the middle of September, but in my head, for some reason, October was still, several weeks away. And so I didn't quite panic because I've been planning and strategizing all summer, but October just signals the end of the year to me. And so when I realized that October was literally just 2 weeks away, I had to just kind of speed some things up and get in gear and to get more intentional about what I was doing. And one of those things that I was doing was planning for the new year. And so the conversation that I was having with myself was, what's your what and your why for 2017, Deborah? What is it that you really want to accomplish? And as I started thinking about that, I said, maybe I'm not the only person that October has kind of snuck up on, right? And so the idea that, the title was literally the question that I was asking myself. And I thought, well, maybe it would be helpful if I shared out to as many people as possible the process that I use for setting goals and helping to make sure that I have a better success rate next year with some of the things I want to accomplish. And so tonight is really also to help you, those of you who tune in, to focus on yourselves for the next 45 minutes or so. And so with that, I am going to switch over to PowerPoint. And while I'm doing that, why don't you grab your notebook, your laptop, if you're watching this on your phone, and maybe you grab your laptop or your tablet or your journal, whatever it is that you use to track your ideas, to write down your thoughts, to do your goal setting. Why don't you grab that, obviously a pen, and maybe even a bottle of water. Depending on what time you're watching this, you might even be having a glass of wine. That's just fine as well. But you want to be able to take some notes. I'm also going to give you some information about how to get the workbook that was created to go along with this webinar. And so I'll give you that information once we switch over to the PowerPoint. My contact information will be there. But even without having the workbook, if you just write down the questions and follow along what the exercises are, you'll be in good shape. So with that, I am going now to switch over to PowerPoint, and we're going to get started, okay? And once again, thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the other side. So as I said, the purpose of this webinar is to help you identify what it is that you want to accomplish for the upcoming year. And for the next few minutes, it's going to be all about you. And one of the reasons that is important is because in my work with professional women of color, they're highly accomplished, high achievers. And one of the things that I notice, I see this all of the time, that everybody else's goals, everybody else's needs get met. And somehow or other, we always end up at the end of the list or the back of the line. And so for the next 45 minutes, we want to focus purely on you and what it is that you want to accomplish in the new year. And so it is, this is really, really designed with you in mind. So with that, we're going to get started. And we're going to get started with you making a list of the things that you accomplished this year. And of course, the year is not over, so it doesn't have to be a final list, but what are some of the things that you accomplished this year? Your 2016 accomplishments. And the reason we want to start here is because, as I said earlier, one of the things that busy women, particularly professional women, we get so wrapped up in doing for others that we rarely take the time to take stock of what we've accomplished and acknowledge it and even celebrate, what we've accomplished, unless it's something really, really huge. And so that's important. Now, let's start out with what you accomplished for the year. And then more importantly, how did you make that happen? So for the things that you accomplished, how did it happen? What did you do to make that happen? And you're going to see a little later how that becomes important to understand that, right? So writing down what your 2016 accomplishments are and how did you make those happen. And it's okay if you don't get it all done right this minute. Obviously, you can pause this video at any point and continue, or you can circle back and view it again and finish this. So, but here's your starting point. And so next, we want to make a list of what didn't you get to do this year? What didn't you get to do this year? And what, did you want to experience that you didn't get to experience? What were some of the accomplishments that just sort of eluded you? And in addition to that, again, the all-important question, why? Why didn't you get to do it? And so we want to pay close attention to the reasons we are giving for why we didn't accomplish what we wanted. And you have to be honest here. Nobody else is going to see this. This is your document, your plan. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. So you're not posting it on social media. You're not leaving it out on the kitchen counter. This is solely for you. And so we want to be able to be honest about the reasons that we are giving for why we didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, or why we didn't experience what we wanted to experience. And we want to begin to look for a pattern, right? Is there a pattern in the reasons that we're offering? And we want to be able, as I said, to determine this honestly, because what you want to see and understand is how much of what prevented you from experiencing what you wanted to experience, how much of that was within your control. And that's really, really key. And then the other thing you want to look at is for the things that you didn't experience, how much of a priority were they? Was it a high priority or was it a low priority? But if it was a high priority, then why did something come along to deprioritize it? And so you want to look at that. If it was a high priority, what came along that made it less of a priority? What came along that you made a decision that it wasn't as important to you? Now, I tell you why this is important is because one of the things, again, that I see all the time is that we are, as professional women and busy professional women, we make sure that everybody else's needs get met. And somehow or other, we make this determination unconsciously, I believe, that what we want and what we want to experience, we'll either get to it in time or it's not as important. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I want you to start to look at the reasons that that you're not experiencing at least some of the things that you want to do. All right. So what didn't you get to do last year and why? And then, so we're going to get right into the core of why we're sitting down together today. So last week, actually a couple of weeks ago now, I had the opportunity to eavesdrop on a colleague who was doing some consulting with a small business owner. And it wasn't like I was doing something unethical. He actually was broadcasting the consulting session. And so some of us were invited to listen in to some of the recommendations and ideas he was sharing with her. But one of the things he said in the course of that was, he said, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but today is my January 1st. Today is my January 1st. And he was saying that he was excited about that because it represented an opportunity for new possibilities and that he would get to do, you can get to do something new. And I thought, you know what, that is really a cool way to look at it. I believe that also that January 1st just sort of gives you a clean slate, a clean canvas that you can then, fashion and do whatever it is that you want to do. And so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to declare today as our January 1st, or you can make it tomorrow. And the point being that January 1st is whatever day you declare it to be. You don't have to wait for the calendar to tell you that it's January 1st, right? You can get started today. And here's what we want to do now. Considering your brand new clean slate and brand new canvas, what do you most want to accomplish in the new year? What do you most want to accomplish in the new year? And that is a really pay attention to the question because it's about what you want to do and not what you need to do. There is a big difference between the two, right? So today is your January 1st. What is it that you most want to accomplish in the new year? And this list does not have to be in order. You can always circle back and put it in order later and prioritize it later, particularly after you've had some time to think about it and sit with it and feel it through. You can go back and put it in some order. But again, what is it that you most want to do? And pay attention again to, this is not about asking you what you need to accomplish, but what you want to accomplish. And there's a big difference. And the difference is that the things that you need to do will always find their way on the list. They will always find their way on the list. And if you don't believe me, go back and look at the list of what you did not get to accomplish this year and why, and you'll see that I'm willing to bet that what you will see is that a lot of what needed to happen or what other people needed superseded what was on your list that you wanted for yourself. I'm willing to bet that. And feel free to drop me a note and let me know whether I was on target with that or not. The second part of this is, as you're writing down what it is that you want to accomplish and what you want to experience in the new year, be very clear and specific. Be very clear and specific. But also, as you're writing this down, you have to believe that it's doable. You have to believe that it's doable. If you don't believe that it's doable, the chances are that it's not going to happen. So right here, I'm going to teach just a mini lesson on the law of attraction, right? Just a mini lesson. So we've all heard that what you see is what you get. All of us have heard that. What you see is what you get. And that is actually not just some little cute overused phrase. It's actually a law. It really is actually a law. And so being clear and specific is very important, because what you see in your mind's eye, it's not about what you see with your physical eye. It's what you see in your mind. What you see in your mind's eye is what you will get, right? And you don't even have to believe me on that. You can just kind of look around your life and see evidence of that. So be clear and be specific to the extent that you can, and then also believe that it's doable. And because if you are not clear and you're not specific, you're going to get vague results. You're going to get vague results. And if you don't believe that it's doable, then it won't be. Okay. And so that's very, very important. So as you are writing out what it is that you want to accomplish, be clear and specific and believe that it's doable. One of the things that I found this quote last night as I was preparing this is, when you believe in something, the force of your convictions will spark other people's interest and motivate them to help you achieve your goals. And I came across this last night. I'll talk about what this represented for me as well a little later, but the believing in the possibility of what you want to accomplish is so important, in addition to being specific and being very clear. And then after writing down what it is that you want to accomplish, the most important part of that is your why. What is your why? So for each of the things that you wrote down that you would like to, that you want to accomplish and experience next year, what's your why? And this is the most important part of this. And the reason is, how you answer this is what's going to fuel you and energize you and inspire you when your energy starts to lag, right? And so when things are not quite going the way you would like them to, or they're going slower than you would like them to, when seeming obstacles pop up to kind of slow things down or suggest that you need to stop or make a left turn, it's your why that's going to keep you going. And it's going to keep you moving toward your goal. And so and here is also where you can see the difference between what you want to do and need to do, and why that's a big difference. A couple of years ago, I had actually, even might have been last year, I had the opportunity to sit in a conference room with Deion Sanders, and some of you may know who he is. He's an NFL Hall of Famer. He also played professional baseball. He's a sports commentator. He's also done a couple of reality shows around his family and his kids, and really great guy. But I had a chance to sit in a conference room with him last year, and someone asked him how was it that he managed to be so successful in not one professional sport, but in two professional sports? And his answer stuck with me. He said, what enabled him to do that was that he was absolutely determined that his mother would never go back to working in the hospital again. And he said he was so committed to that, to making sure that she never had to go back to work in the hospital again, and that's what fueled him. And this was the advice that he offered as a piggyback to that. He said, you absolutely, when you have a dream, you have an idea or a goal, you have to commit to, your why has to be committed to something bigger than you. Be committed to something larger than you. And he said, and the reason is because you will quit on yourself all the time. You will quit on yourself all the time. So if your commitment is to something larger and more important than just you, then you increase your chances of success. And so that really, really stuck with me. And so what's your why? And your why should be about you as a central thing, but what's the larger picture, right? So, how does it benefit you? But the larger picture, what is the benefit? What is the reward for what it is that you want to experience? And so as you think about that, one of the things that that becomes really, really important is understanding how to activate all of this, right? So there are three things that are required. We talked about, so let's recap here for a minute. We talked about the need to be specific and why that's important. We talked about the need to believe that, what you want to achieve is possible and why that's important. And the other dynamics that come into play here are your imagination, commitment, and action, right? And so imagination, commitment, and action, those three things. And so what's the importance of imagination? The importance of imagination is where ideas come from. I believe that your imagination is the most powerful tool, the most powerful gift that you have. Your imagination is how you are able to see that which is not yet formed. And so your imagination is what you can see in your mind's eye, right? That is, and that's where ideas come through that. And it's very, very important. Why? Because this is where you will begin to see, to get some insights about what's possible, what's doable, and all the different aspects of the goal that you have set for yourself. And so that's really important as a key step. One of the things that as a society that we do is we chastise people, particularly children, for daydreaming. But daydreaming is a really, really powerful tool. It's visualization, basically, right? And so, and divinely inspired, I believe. And so use your imagination, put your imagination to work, and be open to the ideas that it presents to you about the goals that you want to set. And then secondly, commitment. You have to make a commitment to yourself. And so the question here you want to answer, or the statement you want to write, is what commitment are you willing to make to yourself? What commitment are you willing to make to yourself to help you accomplish what you want to experience in the new year? Now, when you go back and you look at the list of things that you didn't get to experience this year, when you look at the reasons, you're going to see, I'm willing to bet, that you made and kept commitments to a lot of other people and not yourself. I'm willing to bet that. And so what commitment are you willing to make to yourself to make sure you accomplish some of the goals that you want to accomplish and achieve next year? And so write that out. I am willing to commit. I am willing to commit to whatever the following action. And you want to write this out. Or you can use the word intention. Today, I am declaring my intention to whatever that is that you are willing to stick to, right? And what is it that you are willing to do on behalf of you? And again, the reason that this is important is because we make and keep commitments to other people all the time, as if the commitments that we make to ourselves are not as important, or that what we want for ourselves is not as important. And that's just simply not true. And I see this so often. And it's as if we somehow unconsciously are considering that we are less important than anyone else, and that's just simply not true. We're not less important, and what you want for you is not less worthy than what anyone else wants. And so as you're writing out your commitment, resist the temptation to let guilt come sneak in and frame your words, right? So you want to write out your commitment or your intention statement. And then what the other thing that this is helpful for is that it works as an affirmation, right? It works as an affirmation that you can look at every day if you have to. Because we already know that, other people and situations are going to come along to convince you that what you want isn't as important as what they need from you at the moment. And the truth is, you can use your commitment to yourself or your statement of intention. You can use it as a test, right? That's really what it is. It's a test. And as these situations arise that present themselves as being more important than what's on your list, as people present their challenges and their needs and their wants to you, and present them to you as being more important, your statement of commitment, your statement of intention is going to be very, very important to help you get through that. One of the things that I see very often, way too often, it's actually very distressing, is how my clients and a lot of their peers are feel guilty about this, and the people in their lives intentionally make them, try to make them feel guilty or make them feel like they're being selfish. And there's nothing selfish about it. There's nothing selfish about it, because the fact of the matter is, if you don't experience some of the things that you want to experience and achieve some of the things that you want to achieve, at some point you start to run on empty, and that won't be good for anybody, right? So it's important that you take care of yourself and not feel guilty about putting yourself first every now and then. And so that becomes really important, making sure that your commitment, that you use it as an affirmation, but also as a test. Now, as we said, we already know some things are going to pop up. Some people are going to present themselves with situations and challenges that are going to vie for your attention and your energy. And we'll look at this as a test. But the good news here is that you get to look at it as a test, and every day you get to make a choice about whether you're going to pass the test or not. Every day you get to make that choice. And whatever decision you make is okay. So, you may make a decision to say no to something or to someone, and that is just fine. But there may be something that comes along where you will have to say yes or feel compelled to say yes for whatever reason. And that'll be a moment when you'll realize that you're going to fail the test of keeping your commitment to yourself. And that's okay too, as long as you're okay with it, right? So if you choose to, not to take the test, and choose to fail the test, as long as you're okay with that, then that's okay, because it's not about judging. It's really about trying to stay committed to the path that is going to get you to where you say you want to go. And the other thing is too, and you'll learn this, and you'll, as you observe this, people are pretty resilient, right? So they might get bent out of shape when you say no, but they'll figure it out. And as a matter of fact, it's probably better for them if they go figure it out, right? So if we keep saying yes to, particularly to folks who have the wherewithal to get done what they need to get done, but choose not to do it, basically you become an enabler, right? And so every now and then, no is the best answer someone can get, because then it gives them an opportunity to strengthen some areas that they've not been diligent about. So the key thing here, the other part of what we talked about here was action. And this is really, really important as well. So activating your commitment or your intention. So when you go back and you look at the things that you wrote down that you want to experience next year, one of the things that will be helpful to you is for each of those things, write down the first 3 steps you need to take in order to get started. So what are the first 3 steps? And do that for each goal, each idea that you have written down. What are the first 3 steps that you should take? Now, if you don't know what the first 3 steps are, that's okay. But what we're going to do next is to look at a process that will help you break goals down into manageable steps, right? Break it down into manageable steps. And so one of the things that we want to avoid is having our goals devolve into a wish list, and not taking action, and just hoping that something will happen, will just lead to a lot of frustration and a long list of things that we didn't get to accomplish. And so my mantra, some of you who know me know this is my mantra. This is something that I live by. Hope is not a strategy. It is just not a strategy. You can hope all day long. You can daydream all day long, but if you don't take some action, you're going to end up with a wish list, and a whole lot of wasted energy in terms of you know dreaming about what could happen, or what might happen. You have to take some action. So that's very important, and that's why it needs to be clear and specific in terms of what you want to accomplish. Pardon me. And you also need to believe that it's doable, and also make a commitment to yourself about what it is that you are willing to do to achieve this goal, and take some action. Hence the first 3 steps for each goal that you've set. Because if not, you're just going to be sitting around hoping that something happens, and hope is just not a strategy. So what's the process? Well, it's called SMART. It's the SMART approach. And there's nothing like a plan to help create success. So the SMART approach to goal setting, to planning, and SMART, some of you will know this acronym, stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and trackable, right? So specific, there's that word again, so you can see how important it is to be specific, not just in your goal setting and in your ideas, but also specific in the steps that you take. So break it down. What are the first steps that you should take? and be very specific about that. And it doesn't have to be monumental. It could be something as simple as you need to do some research, or maybe you need to, you know, do some research on something, or maybe you need to call somebody, or maybe you need to make a list of the people you know who can help. So what are the first steps? And then measurable. How will you measure the success of the steps that you have laid out? So if it's phone calls that you need to make or research that you need to make, how are you checking that off, right? Did you do it? And did you set a date by which it had to be done? That's really important as well. And then achievable. The steps that you set out for yourself, they should be reasonable, and they should be realistic, and they should be in logical order, right? And when they're a reasonable and realistic and in order, this really increases your chances of success. And so um, one of the examples I like to use here is, let's say today is Monday and next Sunday is the marathon, and you decide that you want to run in it. And so you're going to start training today to run a 26-mile marathon on Sunday. And unless you've been running marathons all your life, and even if you have, that's not quite likely that you're going to be able to achieve that, right? So is it an achievable step? No. Is it reasonable? Certainly not. And it certainly isn't realistic. And therefore, your chances of success are going to be very small. And then the steps that you lay out should be relevant, right? The steps should be relevant to your goal. I say make every step that you take count. And so again, if you, one of the examples I like to use to illustrate this is, if you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a lawyer, or if you want to get promoted, you know, to vice president of, I don't know, sales, what are you doing, and what steps are you taking that go towards that goal? So if it's a doctor that you want to be, it's probably not a good idea to be enrolled in cosmetology school. I get on the surface how that could be enticing, because hairdressers can potentially make a lot of money, and the thought process could be, well, I'll go to cosmetology school and I'll learn how to do hair, and then I can make enough money to go to medical school. That's true, except that then you would have taken about 18 months or 2 years out of your goal, right? So you've actually will spend energy and money towards a goal and delay what it is that you really want to accomplish and really want to experience. And then the last one, the T, is for trackable. You can track the progress of the steps and the results. And that's also something that you want to be able to do. So the steps that you laid out, you know, how did you measure them? Were they achievable? And whether they were achievable or not is directly tied to whether they were relevant or not. And then what were the results? So track the results. So, you know, if it started out with research, was the research helpful, and where did the research take you? What did it lead to? So what's really good about this is that you can use this at every single phase of your goal setting. So if you've got a really big goal, and really big goals are really, really good, right? I read somewhere that if your goal didn't make you uncomfortable, it wasn't big enough. And I can't remember who said that, but every time I think about that, I get shivers, right? It's like, whoa, because some of my goals didn't make me nervous. So I suggest that I might need to go back and revisit some of them. But no matter how big your goal is, no matter how big your idea or how big your dream, this process will help you break it down into manageable pieces. Now, I will tell you the other thing that I do is I recreate this chart in Excel. And so I use this just to remind me of what SMART stands for, but I recreate a chart in Excel. You could also do it in Word and create a table in Word. And what I do is, in fact, I think I'll show you a little bit of it. What I do is I add a column for what resources I need or what resources don't I have, and any knowledge gaps that I might have that will signal to me what I need to research or who I need to call. So there are any number of ways that you can just take sort of this basic approach and modify it for your needs. And now some of you who work in project management, you'll be very, very familiar with the SMART approach. And I'll also share with you another form that I use to help see sort of the flow of activity. But using the SMART approach, again, there's nothing like a plan to help create success. And one of the things that this will help you do is to see the steps and the action that you need to take. Because remember, if you're not taking action, you're just hoping something is going to happen, and hope is just not a strategy. So my friend Trevor, one of the things he said was, "See it before you see it, or you'll never see it." And this speaks to the imagination piece, but also I believe to the laying out of the steps. Because if you can lay out the steps, eventually you start to see how it's going to come together, right? You can see how it could possibly come together. You can start to see where your knowledge gaps are and what other things you might need. And so it's really a good way to help you visualize not only your goal, but also be able to see how it's coming together and help you track the success, right? So and that's quite a bit. I mean, we've covered quite a bit of ground, but it's a lot to think about and a lot to work through. But it's exciting because it's all about you. It's all about you. And so here's one of the other forms that I use. As I said earlier, I come out of the advertising business. And so this is a flow chart. For those of you in other industries, you might refer to it as a Gantt chart. In advertising and marketing, we use this to illustrate the flow of marketing activity in the marketplace. And so I have taken this and just sort of refashioned it for myself. I do this in Excel. What's great about this is it takes a minute or two to set it up, but once you do that, you can use them over and over again and copy and paste and copy and paste. Particularly if you don't put the weeks in. Sometimes I do put weeks in underneath the months, particularly if I'm developing a writing schedule for myself. But these are very, very helpful. There are some software packages out there that do the same thing. I think Microsoft still produces Project, which is a Gantt chart with milestones and things. And then there's some others that are free. I tend to stay away from the free ones because they have a tendency to hijack your computer. So I'm a little leery of those. But essentially what this chart does is provides a space to note what the activity is that you're going to be doing or taking, what action steps. And then the tactics are the very specific things that need to happen. So if the activity is, I'm going to take swimming lessons, right? And so the activity in October might be identifying swimming programs or swimming instructors. And the tactics might be, calling all of them and comparing prices and doing the research on the swim instructors, something to that effect. So whatever your goal is, so what's the activity and what are the specific tactics? Now, depending on how big your goal is, this may stretch out through, the first or second quarter of next year. You can actually recreate this and take it all the way through December of next year. And again, you can recreate this in Excel or Word. You can do a Word table. And if you get a copy of the workbook, it's in there. Although I would suggest that you just recreate it in your computer, and that way you can make it as big as you need it and make it expandable. But this is a really good way to look at the activity and the action steps that you need to take over the course of time in order to accomplish your goal. And here's something else. I didn't mention this before, but here's a really good thing to do. So as you lay out what it is that you want to accomplish, set a date for when you will have those things accomplished. What are the dates? And so for we talked about identifying the first 3 steps for each goal. Set a date for each of those. And as you reach milestones, as you complete them, how are you going to acknowledge yourself for that? How are you going to celebrate yourself for that? So that you can keep yourself inspired and encouraged to keep moving forward. And so one of the things that will help you along with this is having an accountability partner. And this is important as well. All of this is important, as you can see. Who is going to be your accountability partner? Now, here's what's key about this. It should be somebody who you trust, but also this person should be the truth teller in your tribe, the truth teller in your circle. It has to be someone who you respect, someone who you trust, but this person must be someone who has no problem with calling you out on things when you need to be called out, or pulling your coat when your coat needs to be pulled, and doing it in love. Obviously, this is not about judgment, but also someone who you respect and honor, and that when they call you out, when they hold you accountable, you're not going to get an attitude or start acting like a little spoiled brat. Because when you're asking someone to be your accountability partner, you're asking them to honor your commitment to yourself and help you keep that commitment to yourself. Okay? And so that's very important. So give that some considerable thought. Who is going to be your accountability partner? And then this next question, who's holding your ladder? In the very first chapter of my book, U 3.0, A Guide to Overcoming Roadblocks for Professional Women of Color, long title, right? I ask this very important question: who's holding your ladder? And there's a backstory to the title of this chapter, and you can order the book on Amazon or Kindle or barnesandnoble.com to read not only about the backstory to this title, but some of the lessons in the book, which are 25 chapters, and each of them are key steps to overcoming roadblocks. But essentially, this question is asking, who's got your back? And that includes professionally as well as personally. And the reason that this question is formulated this way is that we can only reach as far, and we can only extend as wide, and we can only go as high as our support is strong enough to hold our ladder. And when you read the chapter on who's holding your ladder, you'll understand that even better. But who's in your support network? Who's in your inner circle, both personally and professionally? And as you're, identifying what it is that you want to achieve and accomplish and experience in the new year, now is a good time as any to consider who's holding your ladder. What does your support network look like? And as you take inventory of that, you may get a revelation that some changes need to be made. And changes, sometimes changes to this are uncomfortable. They may be uncomfortable, but necessary. And one of the things, and some of you will not find this surprising at all, some of the things that and people that we need to switch out, if you will, in our life are going to be family members. And that's really going to be difficult. That's really going to be challenging, because you can't do anything about the fact that they're family, right? But you can do something about how you interact with them. You can do something about how much energy you lend to the situations that they find themselves in. You can do something about how you allow yourself to feel. It's particularly and I'm speaking now from the work that I do with my clients, how family members can have a way of making you feel guilty about your success and making you feel guilty about some of the things that you want to experience. And so you'll have to summon some courage, right, to kind of manage that. And so, as you prepare to increase your experiences for the new year, give some thought to um, taking some inventory of who is holding your ladder and what, if any, changes need to be made. And don't be afraid to make them. Now, that doesn't mean that you take a machete and just whack people off. There might be some delicate and sensitive conversations that have to happen, but nevertheless, as we said earlier, when you don't take care of yourself, you end up paying the price. And I've seen what that looks like, and it's not pretty. It is not pretty. And so that's something that you can work on after you've set your goals and ideas and have done your plan of action, your steps that you need to take. And so one of the other things, and this actually might be tied to, can be tied to the inventory that you take. What do you want to do differently next year? And what do you need to do differently next year? Two different questions. What do you want to do differently, and what do you need to do differently? And again, these are, questions that really require you to be honest. Again, nobody else is going to look at this but you. So be very, very honest about answering these questions, because it doesn't matter what you say to other people, but it really is important what it is that you say to yourself. And so that's something that you can work on. Maybe it's something that you think about as you're laying out the steps that you need to take. Maybe some of the steps that you would normally take, maybe it's time to revisit that and do something a little bit differently. But definitely consider what you want to do differently, and then also consider what do you need to do differently to have a more to see more effective results for your goals in the new year. Okay. And so here's my favorite thing: synchronicities. And so for those of you who may not be familiar with the word, synchronicities are, some would call them coincidences, but I don't believe in coincidences. I think everything happens for a reason, whether you understand the reason or not. That's just my personal belief. But one of the things that you should, that I would suggest that you start to do as you're working on your plan for 2017 is start to make note of the synchronicities. And so let me give you an example. I'll give you a real-time example, actually. So the quote earlier in the webinar by Richard Branson on the power of belief. As I was working on the slides for this webinar, I had literally was working, was writing out commitment, well, being clear and being specific, and believing that it's doable. And I went, after I had finished that, I was reading some business literature, and I'd taken a lot of information in the course of a day. And what do I come across? Um, Researching, just reading something else completely unrelated, or so it would seem. And as I was trying to get to the article, this was the quote on the cover page, right? This quote by Richard Branson. And that was a major synchronicity, because synchronicities can work as confirmation and affirmation of what you are doing in the path that you were on. So, and at the same time, so that was the quote by Richard Branson on the power of you believing in your idea and in your dreams. And the article I was trying to get to, um, this is really crazy, was an article that talked about using the SMART approach for effective goal setting. I mean, so like, how crazy is that? Within the time span of a half hour, I came across the Richard Branson quote on the power of belief, and I came across an article about using the SMART approach. And in fact, the guy who wrote the article on the SMART approach said, if you're not using the SMART approach for goal setting, how dumb is that? And I thought, wow, gee. So again, confirmation of the approach that I was writing about and offering up, and also an affirmation. And just really, really, I find those to be powerful. So you start to make a note of those, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. You can write it in your journal. You can write it down on the calendar, make note of it on the calendar on your phone. But what you want to do is to start to track them, because the more you track them, you will start to recognize that we get these little messages, these little clues all of the time, but for the most part, we ignore them, right? For the most part, we're not paying attention to them, but we get synchronicities all the time, all of the time. And so this is my fun part for me, because I just love the little messages that the universe sends me, that I'm on the right track, or that maybe I need to pause for a minute. And so do that for yourself, and it is kind of fun. And so I think that might be all I have. I'm going to give you, yes, so I'm going to give you just some information on some other services that we offer, some other ways, if you're interested, that you can participate in what we're doing, some ways that that you can work with me if you're interested. We offer a number of webinars. I only have two listed here, but we offer a number of webinars. They're really workshops. And one that people get a lot of value out of is called How to Be Politically Savvy on Your Own Terms. And this is for navigating organizational politics. I can hear you moaning and groaning already, but unfortunately, politics, organizational politics, is very, very important to understand it. We have a definition that we work with, and this is really a workshop. It's 3 parts. I'm actually thinking about converting it into group coaching, because of the level of work that's done, including developing a stakeholder map and developing a strategy for establishing and maintaining relationships at the key executive leadership level. One of the other webinars that we do that people get a lot of value out of is called How Do Others View You Really? And this one helps particularly professional women reconcile how they see themselves with how other people see them. And this is huge. I've yet to work with a client that didn't have a dilemma in this area. And one of the reasons I can work with this topic is I was one of those people as well, that, how I was perceived in my industry and how I thought of myself, or how I saw myself, were going in completely opposite directions. I could tell you hilarious stories about that. But in any case, this is a 3-part webinar. You also have the opportunity to purchase an assessment to go along with it that comes with a debrief and a strategy session. So there are 2 different ways to take part in that. And then what do they mean when they say, this is decoding performance evaluations. As a matter of fact, the other 2 topics, how to be politically savvy and how do others view you, really come out of some of the comments and the things that I have come across with my clients that they have experienced in their performance evaluations. And that's really how the series, what do they mean when they say, it's actually a blog series that just sort of evolved into webinars and some group coaching as well. And then we also offer a range of coaching services, including, a range of assessments. So some of you will be familiar with those, what we have listed here. But for those of you who work for companies who may not use assessments, we have DISC. We have the ability to administer that. We have the ability to administer emotional intelligence assessments. Some of you may find that of particular value if you're having some challenges with being in a new management role or new leadership role. We have a 360 assessment, which really works with how do others view you, and to help you get an objective and more thorough assessment of how you are viewed, and then match that up with how you see yourself and develop strategies to leverage your gifts and talents and strengths. And then sales IQ, this for people who work in sales and marketing, this is really, really helpful to help understand the temperament and the capacity for certain types of sales and sales leadership. And then executive leadership assessment, which is really, really comprehensive, that provides some insight into leadership style and management style and communication style. And it also is helpful for those people who are hiring managers. These assessments can also help you identify candidates, right? So that's the range of assessments. And then we have a couple of others that we offer as well, but these are some of the more widely used ones. And then we do group coaching. I would encourage you to sign up, get on our mailing list so that you can be kept up to date on what we're doing. Group coaching, we form them once a quarter, and if you sign up, you'll find out, you'll be the first to know what the group theme is, and when it's forming. It's a minimum of 3 people, it's a maximum of 10 participants, and we follow the ICF guidelines for group coaching. We follow the ICF guidelines for all coaching, as a matter of fact. And also work with clients if they have just one particular challenge or a situational barrier that they're trying to deal with. A 6-session laser coaching package. And then one-on-one coaching. I don't have the capacity to do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I mostly work one-on-one with seasoned executives or people who are in transition, right? So they're looking to either transition out of their current role or current career, or trying to really looking to get promoted to the next level. That's where a lot of my work is done. So um, that's one of the areas that if you're really interested in one-on-one coaching, please drop me a note or give me a call. And we're about to go to my contact information, and then we can have a conversation about, what my availability is, and what you think your need is, and how I might be able to be of service to you. So here's my contact information. I use as my primary email address Coach D Gray-Young at Gmail. And there's a story behind that. I've got a story behind a lot of things. Coach D Gray-Young at gmail.com. And the reason is I always get my Coach D Gray-Young at gmail.com email, and I can get it from anywhere in the world. My private email address, Deborah at CoachDGrayYoung.com. We're having a bit of a challenge with the provider, and nobody has been able to figure this out. And it's not just me, by the way. It's other people that have private email addresses that at any given point, if you send me an email, you may get a rejection notice, and for sure, I may or may not get your email. So I use Coach D Gray-Young as my primary, but please copy me on at Deborah at CoachDGrayYoung.com, and that way I have two ways of getting to it. My Twitter handle is Coach D Gray-Young, and my website is CoachDGrayYoung.com. And you can go to my website. You can read a little bit more about me. You can also look at my LinkedIn profile. It'll give you a little bit more about me as well. On my website, I think I have both of my books are there, so you can look and see what those are, as well as some of the blog posts that I've written. And then you can always call or leave a message here at this number. I will get the voice message as well as a transcript of your message. And so even if you text me at this number, I will get the transcript. So make use of that. And again, if you want the workbook that accompanies this this webinar, send me an email or send me a text, and I'll be happy to send it to you. And if you're interested in any of the upcoming activities that we have, please send me your email. I will add you to our mailing list so that as these activities are coming up, you can be the first to know. So again, make note of the information. You may want to at some point come back and listen to this and watch this again. I hope it's been useful for you. And it's been really fun doing this for you. And I've had a lot of fun putting it together. And I shared with you some of my synchronicities, and that really, really made it fun because it helped me to know that at least I was on the right track. I don't make anything up. I do a lot of research and a lot of homework in preparation for things like this. And so, I'm always working because I don't believe that because I believe hope is not a strategy. I never just hope that something is good and on point. I really try to work hard to make sure that what I am sharing out is substantive and useful. So again, thank you for your time. And I look forward to getting your emails and text messages and phone calls from you. And I wish you lots and lots of success in the new year. And if I can be of service to you in any way, please, it would be my honor to do so. Bye-bye.